The unmistakable sound of a classic Northern Ireland Railways diesel-electric multiple unit reverberates around the Downpatrick and County Down Railway's terminus, giving us the taste of what could have been if the railway had not been closed by the UTA in 1950. The latest new train to arrive on Ireland's only preserved mainline railway was officially handed over at a special ceremony on Saturday 22nd November 2014, held in the DCDR Carriage Gallery.
Special welcome for MCGREEVY General Manager.
The day started with some words of welcome from the railway's chairman, Brian GOODFELLOW, before hearing from NI Railways General Manager MCGREEVY.
So I was really delighted whenever Downpatrick Railway Society expressed an interest in a Class 450. It gives me very great pleasure to hand over the keys, the official keys, the 458, to your chairman.
The keys to unit number 458 were then handed over, before Ian Wilson from the Modern Railway Society of Ireland spoke about the preservation.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm privileged to speak this afternoon on this auspicious occasion on behalf of the MRSI and to congratulate DCDR on their latest acquisition.
Guests were then invited to board the new train for a return trip to Inshabby. Along the way, guests were able to view developments on the railway, as well as take in views across the County Down countryside. Modern Railway Society of Ireland Chairman Ian Wilson explains what qualifies the 450 class for preservation.
Well, I believe that this is the last flowering of the concept of the diesel-electric multiple unit in Northern Ireland. They dominated the trains in this part of the country for a quarter of a century, and I think it is good that something that was so dominant should be preserved for posterity. Well, to me, this was something that was so well known and so commonplace up to 5-6 years ago, and is now gone. It's disappeared. And for a generation like me, these were what the railways were all about 25 years ago. So it's worth preserving because future generations can have some idea of what railway travel was like in the 1980s, 1990s.
MCGREEVY from Translink outlines his thoughts about the preservation of the train.
It was a pleasure to be involved in new train programmes and replacing all of our old stock, and to see 450s retiring. But I was a little bit saddened at the thought that they were all going to go under the hammer, so I was really delighted to see one remaining in operation, and delighted that Downpatrick and County Down Railway could do that. I think simply the ability and the capacity to receive a Class 450 and keep it in operation, I think says a lot for the organisation of Downpatrick here. So I wish the Society every success for the future, and hopefully the 450 will be running for many years to come.
We were really glad to have Mr McGreevy in attendance with us here today. DCDR is indebted to Translink and the Modern Railway Society of Ireland for their support of this initiative. Without their support, this preservation would not have happened.
The next task for the DCDR is to start a sympathetic refurbishment of the train, so it can act as the railway's buffet train and for use in special events like Christmas and Halloween. But that's another story.